If your doctor recently told you that your creatinine is climbing, or you've noticed your urine looking foamy, or you're waking up 2, 3, even 4 times a night to go to the bathroom, I want you to stop whatever you are doing and watch this video all the way through, because what I am about to share with you could genuinely change the trajectory of your kidney health, and it all starts in your kitchen. My name is Dr. David Miller. I am a board-certified nephrologist with over 25 years of clinical experience treating patients with chronic kidney disease right here in the United States. I have sat across from thousands of patients, people just like you, who came into my office scared, confused, and overwhelmed by a lab result they didn't fully understand. And the one thing most of them had in common? Nobody ever told them about the power of food. Not just general healthy eating, I mean specific, science-backed foods that your kidneys respond to in a very measurable way. Now, here is something that might surprise you. Most people focus entirely on what they should not eat when they have kidney issues. Avoid this, cut that, eliminate the other thing. And yes, that matters. But what the research is increasingly showing, and what I have observed firsthand in my own patients, is that the right foods, eaten consistently and prepared the right way, can actually help your body process and excrete creatinine more efficiently, reduce the toxic load on your kidneys, and even slow the progression of CKD when combined with your medical treatment plan. Today, I am going to walk you through 5 specific snacks that check all the right boxes for kidney health in people over 60. These are not exotic superfoods you cannot pronounce or find at your local grocery store. They are accessible, affordable, and, I think you will be pleasantly surprised, actually delicious. But more importantly, I am going to explain exactly why each one works, what the science says, and this is the part most channels skip over, how to prepare them correctly, because making the wrong preparation mistake can actually reverse the benefit entirely. So, whether you have been diagnosed with stage 3 or stage 4 CKD, whether you are managing diabetes or high blood pressure alongside your kidney disease, or whether you are simply noticing those early warning signs and you want to get ahead of this before it gets worse, this video is for you. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the 5th snack is the one that most people have completely wrong, and the preparation method makes all the difference. Let us get into it. Snack number 1. Turnips. Let me start with a vegetable that I genuinely believe is one of the most underrated kidney foods in existence, and I say that as someone who has been prescribing dietary changes to kidney patients for over 2 decades. I am talking about the humble turnip, and before you click away, hear me out, because turnips have a nutritional profile that was practically designed for people managing CKD. Here is the first thing you need to understand. One of the biggest dietary challenges for people with kidney disease, especially those in stage 3 or stage 4, is potassium management. Your kidneys are responsible for filtering excess potassium out of your blood, and when they are not functioning at full capacity, potassium can build up to dangerous levels. Most vegetables that are good for the heart or great for general health are actually too high in potassium for someone with moderate to advanced CKD. Potatoes, tomatoes, spinach, avocados, all problematic in large amounts for many CKD patients. So what do you replace them with? Turnips. A half-cup serving of cooked turnips contains only about 138 milligrams of potassium. That is exceptionally low compared to almost any other root vegetable. For comparison, the same serving of potato can contain over 400 milligrams. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between a food that strains your kidneys and one that gives them breathing room. But here is where it gets even more interesting, and this is the part most kidney health videos miss entirely. Turnips are also naturally low in phosphorus and sodium, the other 2 minerals that kidney patients need to watch carefully. When phosphorus builds up in the blood because the kidneys cannot filter it properly, it starts pulling calcium out of your bones and depositing it in your blood vessels. That leads to a condition called vascular calcification, which dramatically increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. The fact that turnips are low in all 3 of the minerals we worry about, potassium, phosphorus, and sodium, makes them a genuinely exceptional choice for someone managing kidney disease. Now, let me bring in some science here. According to data referenced by the National Kidney Foundation, dietary patterns that emphasize low-potassium vegetables are associated with better blood pressure control and reduced progression of CKD. And blood pressure control is critical here because hypertension is both a cause and a consequence of kidney disease. High blood pressure damages the tiny blood vessels inside your kidneys, the ones responsible for filtering your blood. And damaged kidneys make blood pressure worse. It becomes a cycle. Foods like turnips help interrupt that cycle. There is also an emerging body of research on the role of fiber in kidney health. Turnips provide a meaningful amount of dietary fiber, and what fiber does in the gut is actually quite relevant for creatinine levels. You see, creatinine is a waste product generated by the normal breakdown of muscle tissue. Your kidneys filter it out and excrete it in urine. But research has shown that certain types of gut bacteria can also help break down uremic toxins, the toxic byproducts that accumulate in kidney disease, and a fiber-rich diet supports those beneficial bacterial populations. This is an area of research called the gut-kidney axis, and it is one of the most exciting frontiers in nephrology right now. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. I will call him Raymond. Raymond was 67 years old, retired postal worker from Ohio, stage 3 BCKD with an eGFR hovering around 38. He came to me frustrated because he felt like every food he enjoyed was on the forbidden list. He was a meat and potatoes man his whole life, and suddenly potatoes were off the table. I suggested he try turnips, roasted in the oven with a little olive oil and garlic, as a direct substitute. 3 months later, his potassium levels had improved, and just as importantly, Raymond had found a food he actually looked forward to eating. That matters more than people realize. Compliance with a kidney-friendly diet is one of the biggest predictors of long-term outcomes. Now here is the critical preparation tip. If you or your doctor are particularly concerned about potassium, which is common in stage 3 and stage 4 CKD, you can further reduce the potassium content of turnips by using a technique called leaching or double boiling. Here is how it works. You peel the turnip, cut it into small pieces, soak it in a large pot of warm water for at least 2 hours, drain and rinse thoroughly, then boil in fresh water. This process can reduce the potassium content by up to 40%, according to research published in the Journal of Renal Nutrition. Always drain the cooking water and never use it as a broth. And critically, avoid pressure cooking or microwave steaming, which can actually concentrate the minerals rather than removing them. You can roast turnips, mash them like potatoes, or even slice them thin and bake them into a crispy chip. They take on the flavors you cook with them remarkably well. And because they are naturally low in calories, they are an excellent option for people managing weight alongside their kidney condition, which, as you know, is extremely common when diabetes and blood pressure are in the picture. Snack number 2, shiitake mushrooms. All right, our second snack is one that I have been particularly excited to talk about because the research on this food and kidney health has advanced significantly in the last decade. And yet, almost nobody in the mainstream health conversation is talking about it. I am referring to shiitake mushrooms. And what makes shiitake mushrooms genuinely remarkable for kidney health is not just one mechanism. It is several, and they work together in a way that is highly relevant for people over 60 with CKD. Let me start with something that surprises almost all of my patients when I bring it up. Shiitake mushrooms contain a compound called erytidinine. Do not worry about the name. What matters is what it does. Erytidinine has been shown in multiple studies to help support healthy cholesterol metabolism. Now, you might be thinking, what does cholesterol have to do with my kidneys? This is actually one of the most important connections in nephrology that does not get nearly enough attention. Dyslipidemia, abnormal cholesterol levels, is both extremely common in CKD patients and a significant driver of kidney disease progression. Elevated LDL and triglycerides contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress in the kidney tissue itself, accelerating the loss of kidney function. Anything that helps manage lipid profiles naturally and safely is relevant to kidney health. But that is just the beginning with shiitake. These mushrooms are also rich in a polysaccharide called lentinan, which has been studied extensively for its immune-modulating properties. Now, why does immune function matter for CKD? Because chronic kidney disease is fundamentally an inflammatory condition. The ongoing low-grade inflammation associated with CKD contributes to the progression of the disease, to cardiovascular complications, and to the general fatigue and physical decline that my patients report. Supporting a balanced, well-regulated immune response, not overactive, not suppressed, is genuinely beneficial. Lentinan helps with exactly that. Shiitake mushrooms are also one of the rare plant foods that contain meaningful amounts of vitamin D, specifically ergosterol, which your body converts to vitamin D when exposed to sunlight. And vitamin D deficiency is rampant in CKD patients. In fact, the kidneys play a central role in activating vitamin D in the body, so as kidney function declines, vitamin D levels typically fall. Low vitamin D in CKD is associated with higher rates of bone disease, cardiovascular problems, and even worse kidney outcomes. Getting additional vitamin D precursors from food can be a meaningful complement to whatever supplementation your doctor has prescribed. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Mushrooms have potassium. Should CKD patients really be eating them? This is a legitimate question, and I want to address it directly. Shiitake mushrooms do contain potassium, but the amounts in a typical serving are quite manageable, particularly if you are consuming them as a snack portion rather than a large meal component. A quarter-cup serving of cooked shiitake mushrooms contains roughly 85 to 110 milligrams of potassium, which is well within acceptable range for most stage 3 CKD patients. However, and I cannot stress this enough, always discuss specific food choices and portion sizes with your nephrologist and your registered renal dietitian, because your individual potassium tolerance depends on your specific lab values, your eGFR, and any medications you are taking that affect potassium levels, like ACE inhibitors or ARBs. Here is the preparation insight that most people do not know. When you cook shiitake mushrooms, particularly when you sauté them in a small amount of olive oil over medium heat, you actually increase the bioavailability of some of their beneficial compounds. The heat breaks down the cell walls and makes the iridodenine and other active components more accessible. Dried shiitake mushrooms, which you can find in almost any grocery store and which are very affordable, are actually even more concentrated in these beneficial compounds than fresh ones. Rehydrate them in warm water for 20 to 30 minutes, then cook them in your preferred way. What you should not do is rely on canned mushrooms, which are typically high in sodium, and sodium, as you know, is a major concern for blood pressure management and fluid retention in CKD. A wonderful kidney-friendly snack is to sauté a small portion of shiitake mushrooms with a drizzle of olive oil, a clove of garlic, and a squeeze of lemon juice. No added salt. The umami flavor of shiitake is so naturally rich and satisfying that most people do not miss the salt at all. And that matters enormously, because one of the biggest dietary challenges my patients face is finding low-sodium foods that are actually satisfying and flavorful. Before we continue, and trust me, the next 3 snacks are where things get really interesting, especially what I'm going to share about egg whites and a specific preparation mistake that almost everyone makes. I want to take just 30 seconds to ask you something. If this information has been valuable to you so far, if you are learning things today that your doctor or your diet counselor has not told you, please take 5 seconds right now and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more seniors who are sitting at home worried about their kidney labs, wondering what they can do, and not finding the answers they need. And if you want to be notified every time we release a new video on kidney health, diabetes management, blood pressure, and evidence-based nutrition for people over 60, subscribe and ring the bell. We are working hard to get to 100,000 subscribers so we can expand this content, bring in more expert guests, and create resources specifically for the CKD community. You are part of making that happen. Now, here is what I really want to know from you. In the comment section below, tell me 3 things: your age, your general location, just your state is fine, and if you are comfortable sharing, your most recent creatinine or eGFR reading. I read these comments personally, and it genuinely helps me understand what topics matter most to our community. You might be surprised how many people watching this video right now are going through the exact same thing you are. You are not alone in this. All right, let us keep going. Snack number 3 is one that surprises almost every patient I recommend it to, because most people with kidney disease have been told the exact opposite of what I am about to say. Snack number 3, egg whites. Egg whites. I know, your first reaction might be that protein is bad for kidneys. You may have been told to restrict protein, and there is real truth in that guidance, particularly regarding total protein intake in advanced CKD. But here is the nuance that is critically important, and this is where a blanket restriction can actually work against patients. Not all proteins are created equal for kidney disease. The quality of the protein matters enormously, and egg white protein is in a category of its own. Let me explain why. When your body digests protein, it generates nitrogen waste products. These waste products must be filtered by the kidneys and excreted in urine. The more nitrogen waste a protein generates per gram, the harder it is for compromised kidneys to process. This is measured by something called the protein's biological value, or BV, a measure of how efficiently your body uses the protein and how much of it is actually converted to body tissue versus excreted as waste. Egg white protein has one of the highest biological values of any food protein, scoring around 100 on the biological value scale, which is considered the gold standard. What this means in practical terms is that your body uses a very high proportion of egg white protein efficiently and generates comparatively less nitrogen waste. For a kidney patient who needs to maintain muscle mass, which is a real and serious concern because muscle wasting is common in CKD and associated with worse outcomes, egg whites offer a way to get high-quality protein without generating the level of uremic waste that lower-quality proteins do. Now, I want to talk about something that many of you watching have probably noticed and been concerned about: foamy urine. If your urine looks frothy or bubbly, particularly in the morning or after not drinking much fluid, that can be a sign of proteinuria, protein leaking into the urine. This happens when the filtering units of the kidney, called glomeruli, become damaged and can no longer retain protein the way they should. The National Kidney Foundation identifies proteinuria as a key marker of kidney damage and a predictor of progression. Here is what connects egg whites to this directly. Adequate albumin levels, albumin is the primary protein in your blood, are essential for maintaining what is called oncotic pressure, which keeps fluid properly distributed in your body. Many CKD patients with significant proteinuria develop low albumin, which leads to edema, swelling in the legs, ankles, and face. Getting high-quality, efficiently used protein like egg whites helps support albumin production without overburdening the kidneys with excess nitrogen waste. This is a genuinely important and often underappreciated aspect of kidney nutrition. And here is the insight that makes egg whites specifically, not whole eggs, the right choice for most CKD patients. Egg yolks are significantly higher in phosphorus than egg whites. As I mentioned earlier when discussing turnips, phosphorus management is critical in kidney disease because impaired kidneys cannot excrete excess phosphorus effectively. Elevated blood phosphorus, called hyperphosphatemia, is associated with bone disease, vascular calcification, and increased mortality risk in CKD patients. The egg white contains virtually no phosphorus, while the yolk contains the majority of the egg's phosphorus content. By separating the white from the yolk, you get the exceptional protein quality without the phosphorus burden. A study published in the Journal of Renal Nutrition found that patients on a low-phosphorus, low-potassium diet who included egg white protein as their primary protein source had better nutritional status and quality of life scores compared to those who relied on other protein sources. That is meaningful clinical data. For a kidney-friendly snack, hard-boiled egg whites are incredibly convenient. You can boil a dozen eggs on Sunday, peel them, discard the yolks, and keep the whites in the refrigerator for the entire week. Season with just a tiny pinch of black pepper and perhaps some fresh herbs. You can also make a simple egg white scramble with a small amount of olive oil and kidney-friendly vegetables. Think a tablespoon of diced onion and a few small pieces of red bell pepper. Keep portions appropriate. I typically suggest 2 to 3 egg whites as a snack portion for most of my patients. But again, your specific protein allowance should be determined by your nephrologist based on your eGFR and individual nutritional assessment. Snack number 4, buckwheat crackers. Our fourth snack brings us to something that I guarantee the majority of people watching this video have never considered in the context of kidney health: buckwheat crackers. And if the name buckwheat makes you think this is some kind of fringe health food, I want to reframe that for you completely. Buckwheat has been a staple food in Eastern Europe and Asia for centuries, and what the research is uncovering about its specific properties relative to kidney health and blood sugar management is genuinely impressive. Let me start with the most surprising fact about buckwheat. It is not actually a wheat at all. It is not even a grain in the botanical sense. Buckwheat is a seed from a flowering plant related to rhubarb and sorrel. This matters for a couple of reasons. First, it is naturally gluten-free, which is relevant because some CKD patients have concurrent gut inflammation or sensitivities. But more importantly, because it is structurally different from true grains, it has a completely different nutritional and metabolic profile. Here is the connection I want you to really understand. Diabetes is the leading cause of chronic kidney disease in the United States. About 37% of adults with diabetes develop CKD, and even in people who do not have a formal diabetes diagnosis, blood sugar spikes after meals create something called glycemic stress, a surge of glucose followed by a spike in insulin, which over time contributes to inflammation, oxidative stress, and directly damages those delicate filtering units in the kidneys. Managing post-meal blood sugar is therefore not just a diabetes issue, it is a kidney protection issue for everyone with CKD. Buckwheat has one of the lowest glycemic indexes of any grain-like food, approximately 54, compared to white bread, which is around 75, and many breakfast cereals which can exceed 80. What this means is that buckwheat digests and converts to glucose slowly and steadily, without the sharp spikes that damage kidney tissue over time. But the mechanism goes even deeper. Buckwheat contains a unique flavonoid compound called rutin. Rutin has been shown in multiple studies to improve insulin sensitivity and support healthy vascular function. Given that the kidneys are among the most vascularly demanding organs in the body, they receive approximately 20% of your total cardiac output, anything that supports vascular health directly benefits kidney filtration. Now here is the genuinely novel insight that I want to share with you, because I have not seen this discussed anywhere else in the kidney health content space. Many of my CKD patients who are over 60 report significant nocturia, waking up multiple times at night to urinate. This is commonly attributed entirely to kidney disease, and while kidney dysfunction certainly plays a role, there is another contributing factor that is frequently overlooked: magnesium deficiency. Magnesium plays a direct role in bladder muscle tone and in the regulation of the hormone ADH, antidiuretic hormone, which controls how much urine your kidneys produce at night. When magnesium levels are low, and they are very commonly low in CKD patients, particularly those taking diuretics or proton pump inhibitors, the bladder becomes more reactive and urine production at night can increase. Buckwheat is one of the better food sources of magnesium available in a kidney-friendly form, providing approximately 50 to 65 milligrams per half-cup cooked portion. Buckwheat crackers made from pure buckwheat flour provide a convenient, portable, and genuinely relevant snack for addressing this often missed piece of the Nocturia puzzle. I always encourage my patients to mention Nocturia to their nephrologist and ask about magnesium levels, because this is a very testable and often correctable deficiency. Now, I need to give you a critical label reading tip here, because this is where a lot of people make a mistake that defeats the entire purpose. When you go to the grocery store looking for buckwheat crackers, you will find products that say buckwheat on the front label, but contain predominantly refined wheat flour with only a small amount of buckwheat. That is not what you want. You want a product where buckwheat flour is the first or second ingredient. Look for crackers with no added salt or a very low sodium content. Under 100 milligrams per serving is ideal. And avoid products with hydrogenated oils or artificial preservatives. If you cannot find a suitable commercial buckwheat cracker in your area, buckwheat flour is widely available, and making your own simple crackers requires only 4 ingredients: buckwheat flour, water, olive oil, and a pinch of herbs. Snack number 5. Pineapple. And now we come to snack number 5, and I promised you that this is the one that surprises people most, and it is the one where the preparation method changes everything. That food is pineapple. Fresh, ripe, properly portioned pineapple. I can already hear the objections. Fruit is high in potassium. Fruit is high in sugar. CKD patients should avoid most fruit. And to a significant degree, that conventional wisdom is correct, but it applies much more strictly to certain fruits than others. Bananas, oranges, kiwis, dried fruits, yes, these are genuinely high in potassium and should be limited or avoided by most CKD patients. But pineapple is in a completely different category, and it has a specific bioactive compound that has genuine science behind it for kidney health. Fresh pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain. Bromelain is a proteolytic enzyme, meaning it breaks down protein, and it also has significant documented anti-inflammatory effects. Now, I mentioned earlier that CKD is fundamentally an inflammatory condition. The inflammation associated with kidney disease is not just a side effect, it is an active driver of disease progression. Inflammatory cytokines, chemical signals produced by the immune system, directly damage kidney tissue and accelerate the decline in glomerular filtration rate. Anything that safely and naturally reduces inflammatory burden is genuinely relevant. Multiple studies, including research referenced in peer-reviewed nephrology literature, have documented bromelain's ability to reduce pro-inflammatory markers, specifically compounds like TNF-alpha and IL-6, which are elevated in CKD patients and are among the primary drivers of kidney inflammation and cardiovascular complications in this population. In fact, a study published in the Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine Journal found that bromelain supplementation significantly reduced inflammatory markers in participants with inflammatory conditions. While this was not a CKD-specific study, the mechanism is directly applicable. Now let me give you the potassium numbers so you can compare yourself. A half-cup serving of fresh pineapple contains approximately 90 to 100 milligrams of potassium. Compare that to a half cup of orange juice at around 220 milligrams or a medium banana at 422 milligrams. Pineapple is one of the genuinely lowest potassium fruits available, lower even than many vegetables. For a CKD patient who is craving something sweet, something fruity, something that does not taste like medical diet food, pineapple in an appropriate portion is a genuinely kidney-friendly option that most other fruits simply are not. Pineapple is also a natural source of manganese, which supports bone health, particularly relevant since CKD patients are at elevated risk for bone disease, and it provides vitamin C, which supports tissue repair and immune function without being so high in any problematic mineral that it creates risk. Now here is the critical warning I promised you, and this is genuinely important. When I say pineapple for kidney health, I mean specifically and exclusively fresh, raw pineapple. Not canned pineapple, not pineapple juice, not dried pineapple, not pineapple from a fruit cup. Here is why this matters so much. Canned pineapple, even varieties labeled as packed in their own juice, has been processed in ways that destroy most of the bromelain enzyme. The enzymatic activity of bromelain is heat sensitive, and the canning process uses heat that essentially eliminates it. You are left with a product that has higher sugar concentration, potentially added sodium or preservatives, depending on the brand, and none of the specific therapeutic compound that makes pineapple relevant for kidney health. Beyond that, canned fruit is often significantly higher in potassium per serving than fresh fruit because of the concentration that occurs during processing. Pineapple juice is even more problematic. It concentrates the natural sugars dramatically, which is a significant concern for CKD patients with diabetes or pre-diabetes, and removes the fiber that helps slow glucose absorption. A half cup of fresh pineapple chunks as a snack, eaten raw, that is what you want. If you want to make it more interesting, you can pair it with 2 or 3 egg whites. Remember snack number 3. For a balanced snack that provides both anti-inflammatory compounds and high biological value protein. That combination is something I actually recommend to patients frequently. And here is the piece that I want to leave you with on pineapple, because it is the one that directly addresses the title of today's video. Can pineapple actually help lower creatinine? Let me be precise about this, because honesty and accuracy are more important than making dramatic claims. No single food directly lowers creatinine in the way that a medication does. What foods can do, and what pineapple's bromelain and anti-inflammatory compounds genuinely contribute to, is reduce the inflammatory burden on the kidneys, support better filtration efficiency, and, importantly, through its diuretic properties, support increased urine output, which means more creatinine and other waste products are being flushed from the body per day. The Mayo Clinic and the National Kidney Foundation both emphasize that hydration and urine output are critical factors in creatinine management. Fresh pineapple, being naturally high in water content and containing compounds that support kidney function, contributes meaningfully to this process. This is science-backed, measured, and honest. Final takeaway. So let us bring it all together. We have covered 5 snacks today: turnips, shiitake mushrooms, egg whites, buckwheat crackers, and fresh pineapple. And I want you to notice something that all 5 of these share. None of them require a prescription. None of them have a list of side effects. None of them will create a drug interaction. And all of them, when incorporated consistently and prepared correctly, work in alignment with your body's natural processes to reduce the burden on your kidneys, support better filtration, manage the coexisting conditions that drive kidney disease forward, and help you feel more in control of your health. Now, I want to be absolutely clear about something, and I say this as someone who genuinely cares about your well-being. These snacks are not a replacement for your medications, your medical appointments, or your relationship with your nephrologist. They are a complement, a powerful, evidence-based complement to a comprehensive treatment plan. If your doctor has prescribed an ACE inhibitor for blood pressure, continue taking it. If you are on a phosphate binder, keep taking it as directed. If your nephrologist has given you a specific dietary restriction, follow it. And bring this video to your next appointment and ask specifically about any of these foods in the context of your individual lab values and clinical picture. If I could leave you with one message today, it would be this. Your kidneys are extraordinarily resilient organs. They have an enormous capacity to adapt, compensate, and, in many cases, to stabilize when given the right conditions. I have had patients who came into my office at stage 3 BCKD who, through consistent dietary changes, proper medical management, and committed attention to things like blood pressure and blood sugar, maintained stable function for 5, 8, even 10 years without progressing to dialysis. That is not a miracle. That is what evidence-based kidney care, including thoughtful nutrition, can accomplish. You are not helpless in this. The food choices you make every single day, the snacks you reach for between meals, the way you prepare your vegetables, whether you choose fresh pineapple or canned, those choices accumulate. They matter. They are small acts of care for organs that work tirelessly for you every moment of your life, filtering nearly 200 liters of blood every single day. I want you to pick just one of these 5 snacks and commit to trying it this week. Just one. Add turnips to your next grocery list. Pick up fresh pineapple instead of the canned variety you have been buying. Try roasting shiitake mushrooms this weekend. That is all I am asking. Small steps, taken consistently, change everything. And then come back to this channel, because we are going to keep building on this foundation together. Next week, we are diving into something I get asked about constantly: the truth about hydration and kidney health for people over 60, including a specific mistake that many CKD patients make about how much water they should actually be drinking that can paradoxically make things worse. That is a video you do not want to miss, and the only way to make sure you see it is to subscribe and turn on notifications. If this video helped you today, please like, share it with someone you know who is managing kidney disease, and leave me a comment below. Tell me your age, your state, your recent creatinine or eGFR if you are comfortable sharing, and which of these 5 snacks you are going to try first. I read every comment. This community is why I make these videos, and your stories matter to me deeply. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Take good care of your kidneys, and take good care of yourself. I will see you in the next video.